This is a small update video on my current project, which I'm calling RJC for short. For the UI, I created a basic key binding pause screen. I'm not really happy with it at the moment, as it demands a lot more settings, but it does support some basic functionality like rebinding and keeping the player's current key bindings, and I hope to add multiple key binds in the future. I also began work on creating a component-based UI system. What this means is when you look at the health or the speedometer or any element on the screen, each of those is made up of smaller components. So you can individually edit the health, and then when you begin playing, the player's main HUD will be made up of these smaller components. That way I can make one at a time. For the gameplay, I have been refining the movement system for the player. It's pretty primitive at the moment, but it allows you to gain speed over time and caps out at a certain arbitrary number, and it will slowly decay if you are not repeatedly jumping. It doesn't work exactly how I want it to right now and is very buggy, but I am really trying to go for a Quake or Titanfall feeling with it as the end goal. This is also a supremely underrated task to take on for a game, and I think most people don't understand what it takes to make it feel as smooth as it does. For the combat, I implemented both the health and the ammo pool for the player, and it is now also reflected in the UI. I also began work on the basic scaffolding for the bosses and, by that extent, the enemies as well. Right now, they can currently roam around and target the player, and then they will begin their animation phases, which also applies as their attacks. This requires a lot more work still, but I am rather happy with how customizable it is, as I can individually edit the textures, the animations, and even just the weapon in the enemy's hand for each enemy that ever shows up in the game. It may not be Elden Ring level just yet, but I think the T-posing will probably stay. I still have a few bugs to chase with the movement system, as well as tackling more level design tasks and improving the graphics with textures and models. I'm also urging to add some form of sound because right now it's absolutely terrifying working in the quietness of this game. These are just a few highlights as I work to get closer towards a more closed game loop. If you want to support the project or just any game work in general, consider hitting the join button below. And also just subscribe. It's free and it will help me in the future.